Wow, David Ryan, or for those few of you, the 400 or so who are at your 20th Rhino Africa celebration, Ryan Davids, welcome. Thank you for being part of us today in this Our Africa.travel segment, where we are interviewing individuals who have made a significant contribution to not only the tourism industry, but to conservation and to climate change. You know, around the world, you've got so much bad news about where the planet's going. But what we've highlighted in the series is what an individual person can do. We often feel in life that there's no, the problems are too big. And I keep sort of repeating the kind of statistic which keeps me awake at night, that when I was born, there were about 450,000 free roaming lions in Africa. And today we've got around 23,000, a drop off of 95% in my lifetime. What are we going to leave our great grandkids? What are we going to leave the next generations? And that storm, that kind of hopelessness is changed by individuals who get out and make a difference. And the whole Travel Channel can do that. And David Ryan, I salute you. You're an amazing guy. You started 20-something years ago with nothing. You went out and you created this extraordinary company called Rhino Africa. And most important, you take between 4 and 6 million rand of your own money, the company's money, and puts it into conservation and good causes. And that for me is just a wonderful, wonderful story, how individuals can make a difference. Folks, we can't despair. So David, getting on to our topic today, mechanical learning, AI. As someone has built an inbound travel business off the back of hard sweat from nothing, using the internet as your tool, how do you believe AI is going to revolutionize the African travel industry? And I specifically want you to look at in the context of creating tailor-made experiences for travelers to Africa.
Well, thank you, Colin. It's wonderful to be here. And thank you for the compliments. It's always nice to hear, but as we know, we never get here on our own. We're always backed by amazing people and amazing teams. So when Ali asked me to do the talk, I was like, you're asking an old fuddy-duddy like me to talk about AI, but I'll try and give you some context of what I believe the direction that we're going in and some of the insights I've pulled out of our industry. I think the first thing when you talk about AI is to realize that much like the internet was back in early 2000, nobody knew its full potential. But what we did know is that it was going to disrupt the way we access information and the way we do things. So in the same way that the internet changed our lives back in the early part of the century, I think AI has the same potential to revolutionize the world. It's certainly going to transform our travel industry, not just here in Africa, but I think across the globe. But the one thing to note is that AI is happening at a rate that we have never experienced. And it has the impact to really change everything we do. I'm fortunate enough that I've actually just come back from the bush. I've just led a 3-day strategic planning session with my senior management team. And I actually spent quite a bit of time trying to contextualize the role of AI in our world and in our business. And I think the most important thing to recognize is that AI doesn't change our purpose or why we are here. And it doesn't change our what either. So, what we do is bring guests to Africa, which services our why. But what AI really has the potential to do is change our how we operate, and not just for Rhino Africa, but for our industry as a whole. So if you start to understand the impact of how AI can change your how we can start to build strategies to implement changes in our how. In the short space of a year at Rhino, to give you an example, we've been leveraging AI across most of the functions in our business. We took a cultural approach that in this last year we should test how AI could enhance our operations, and we're now moving into very specific AI strategies. So we moving towards automated inquiry distribution as an example, all to enhance client communications. It's assisting our travel consultants with their capabilities in building complex bespoke itineraries for our clients. We're harnessing AI algorithms to scale our operations while continuously, and I think something we all do, continuously trying to improve our client experience. I remind my leadership team constantly that guests to Africa and our clients in particular, they'll largely forget what you said, what you did, or even what they paid for their African holiday. But they'll never forget how you made them feel. And how you make them feel is the biggest indicator of success. And we as an industry, for the first time in history, have the ability to analyze vast amounts of data at our fingertips that ultimately can revolutionize how we do things, everything from how we market ourselves to how we operate. And that's obviously all done in the pursuit of creating more memorable, more bespoke experiences and bringing more people to Africa.
So David, on that point of we as an industry, how do we as an industry use AI to contribute to increased arrivals to Africa and consequently creating sustainable job opportunities and actually funding conservation? Because as you know, without conservation without cash is a conversation. We need guests to be traveling to Africa in greater numbers. How can we make this work for the industry?
Well, Colin, let's start by understanding the impact that we know, because I think that's the best way to sort of unpack the question as to how we as an industry can utilize AI. What we know is that tourism has this massive multiplier effect, and it impacts multiple sectors, from retail to agriculture. And what we've come to learn over the years is that, you know, for every 7 guests we bring to Africa, we create 1 sustainable job across these sectors. We also know that our safari industry is primarily located is rural by nature and located in rural areas, where the impact of 1 job is far more significant than urban areas. Our research has shown that 1 job can support up to 10 dependents in a rural area. So what we know is that job creation is the greatest contributor to poverty alleviation. And we know that the benefits of poverty alleviation has positive impacts on communities, which ultimately leads to positive impacts on wildlife. So it goes without saying that if we could increase arrival numbers, for which in the most parts of Africa, I still think we have significant capacity before we run the risk of over-tourism, it goes without saying that our industry still has the potential to have significant impact on job creation and poverty alleviation, and not just here in South Africa, but across our continent. So if you bring AI into that conversation, AI has the potential to play a crucial role in how we drive an increase in arrivals to Africa. Because again, by harnessing AI algorithms, by analyzing data, we can implement far more efficient marketing strategies. We can implement far more personalized client interactions. We can improve and make the booking process for clients quicker and smoother. If you look at what I like to call that travel funnel, which we developed 20 years ago, it has always started with the creation of inspirational content, and it ends up with a guest traveling to Africa. And if you think of it that way, just think about how, if we change our how with the power of AI, even just around content, imagine the personalization that we'll be able to create and the impact we can have on inspiration and then inquiry generation.
Sure. So David, arrival numbers are always a hot topic, and Africa, as you know, receives less than 5% of the planet's total tourism arrivals. We're a tiny smidgen. Yes, there's issues of overcrowding at certain times of year in a few handful of places, but generally, overall, we need many more tourists traveling to Africa if we're going to put a sustainability element that's going to last through generations. During your Rhino Connect sessions last July, you demonstrated how your company, Rhino Africa's arrival numbers were outperforming the country's arrivals and the country's recovery from COVID. I mean, it is quite remarkable. How is Rhino Africa implementing AI to scale its operations and overcome the challenges associated with tailor-made travel planning? Tricky.
It is a tricky one. Well, let's start, Colin, by taking a moment to define the challenges we face today in tailor-made itinerary planning. And then maybe I can articulate how we using or starting to implement AI to overcome them. The first thing I'd say is that while these challenges are not unique to Rhino Africa, they are more specifically related to the upper end or the luxury end of our industry that focuses on building tailor-made itineraries off the back of relationships, which, you know, we've all been quite dependent on expert destination, expert product knowledge, consultants that have expert destination and product knowledge in order to build tailor-made holidays, which often have quite complex logistics to meet client specifications in Africa. The problems of the world today are not the problems that we faced in the past. So I think in the past, we all lived in this world of inquiry generation, and we thought if, you know, the more inquiries we delivered, the more arrivals we would have into Africa. And so this whole race in the past was around inquiry generation. I think we've moved into a world today where inquiry generation is no longer the problem. One of our biggest challenges in the world that we live in today is capacity, because we are unable to take these consultants that we all have that have this expert destination and product knowledge and multiply them. So somewhat, in some way, our actual industry and arrival numbers are constrained by the fact that we actually don't have enough skills and we don't have enough consultants that can actually facilitate inquiries. So the game has shifted from inquiry generation. In fact, we have a strategy at Rhino Africa to massively reduce our inquiry generation and move to a place where, well, how do we now use AI to expand the capability and the capacity and disseminate knowledge through AI that will allow for more capacity to handle inquiries from people that want to travel to Africa and therefore drive larger arrival numbers. So I actually think the investment is no longer in generating search interest or generating inquiries. There's plenty of inquiries to go around to bring people to Africa. What we really have to do is focus on the expertise and how we increase that conversion of people interested in traveling to Africa into actual bookings.
Wow, wow, wow. In fact, you remind me of Matthew Upchurch from Virtuoso 25 years ago. They were facing this whole issue without the advantage of really sophisticated communications and computers, and definitely without AI. His biggest problem was to try and find the next generation of good travel consultants. And the way they went out is to go and find people who were in the law business and get them interested to become travel consultants. So you end up with all these lawyers and stuff like that and accountants who are bored getting into the tourism industry, but it's not practical down here. And I must say, if we can harness AI, what a question. So, David, I love your idea about decreasing inquiry numbers. But as you say, it's kind of sounds suicidal. Can you share with us in what way AI is reducing marketing costs and improving the overall client journey at Rhino? Or in what way it can assist our industry in the marketing space? Because I think we all have this thing of inquiries which will never, ever convert. What is your solution?
Absolutely. Well, let me start by saying that much like the products we at Rhino and most of us in this section of the industry partner with, we prefer a business which is quality over quantity, okay, which is another topic we could talk on for days. But this is something, and we talk about these increased arrival numbers, but I think this is something I wish we as a destination could all collectively agree on a strategy. Specifically, if we look at around the world and we start to correlate sustainable tourism with over-tourism. And I think there's a real conversation to be had about, we're protecting wildlife areas, and where is that tipping point between over-tourism, and how do we focus on quality versus quantity? And how do we also balance that, particularly in cases like South Africa with destinations like Cape Town that has much more capacity, or the winelands than the safari industry. But if you deploy a strategy of quality over quantity, okay, it has to start at the very top of that travel funnel that I was talking about. And again, the challenges of the past are not the challenges of today or the future. Both when it comes to marketing our individual businesses and our destinations. So if you look backwards, or the runway behind us, as I like to call it, we as a business, we as an industry, we as a country have largely been focused on content generation with limited distribution ability. So content was expensive to create, but by nature, it was also extremely generic. It was designed to speak to a very broad audience. And for many of us in the industry, we would actually rely on our brand partners to generate this content for us. We'd rely on the Sangeetas or the Londos of the world to create content for us, and South African tourism to create destination content for us. And for the most part, we would, as businesses in South Africa or promoting Africa, we would ride on the coattails of this content, which by nature was designed to generate the search interest that I was talking about and inspiration, and then we would all go about our business of competing to generate inquiries or leads and convert those into travelers. Now, what is astonishing to me in our industry is how poor those conversion rates are. And if you actually start to do analysis, and I've just spent most of my January in reflection, and I've been looking at search interest largely for South Africa, and conversion of interest into inquiries and conversion of inquiries into bookings. And what I've sort of seen, the insights you can take out of it, is that we're seeing a steady decline. And for most of our businesses, what we miss is that decline in conversion of people wanting to travel to South Africa or Africa and actually travel, it's offset by, there's been a really big increase in revenue because we've all seen these big basket size increases. So the mindset is we are relying on traditional means and then we go, sugar, as our conversion ratios decline, we immediately think we need to put our foot on the gas to start increasing inquiries to sort of just offset that conversion rate. But if you understand that today's challenges is not lead generation, but it's capacity, and we as a business and an industry have an onus to maximize quality, not quantity, to ensure that the limited capacity our industry has in converting leads to bookings or travelers is sort of maximized, that is the only way we're going to truly start to influence arrival numbers, because arrival numbers is nothing more than a consequence of how we operate, and it's nothing more than a consequence of our collective capacity. So the truth behind Rhino's strategy and why we're able to increase arrival numbers while we decrease inquiry generation is because we place a new requirement on our marketing teams on improving quality of inquiry so that we can maximize the conversion ratio. And what we've seen through Rhino's introduction of AI, particularly in our marketing space, is a significant increase in that inquiry quality, which allows us to generate less inquiries and allows more efficiency for our travel experts because they have less volume that they have to deal with, and they're able to give more attention to the relationship with the client. So AI is enabling us to target the right audience, which content never used to be able to do, with personalized marketing campaigns. AI can allow you to optimize your advertising expenditures. So you're not doing this just spray and pray kind of Google ad spend that was a thing of the past. And we're allowed to improve the effectiveness of our actual promotions. So when you start to implement sort of AI-powered chatbots and virtual assistants, you also start to improve and enhance the client journey. And before you even know it, you're starting to reinvent how we do things. And I promise you, that's going to start to result in more seamless and engaging experiences for guests wanting to travel to Africa. And it's ultimately going to lead to even greater satisfaction, higher loyalty, and higher repeat rates to our continent.
David, before I get to my next question, you mentioned AI-powered chatbots. So when you get that little thing popping up, is that a person or is that David Attenborough talking to a guest, pretending that you got to come on a safari? I mean, what is that AI-powered chat box about?
So that AI-powered chat box, no, it's a computer. It's not a person, but it hands over to a person at some point. And so it's great for testing inquiries or, putting some quality control in. But essentially what it does is it looks at the database that it's got. So you can ask it a question. So, and the one thing our industry should have in droves is data and content, right? So let's say, for instance, you put together an itinerary for a client and you've now got a chatbot. Well, because all the information is in that itinerary or it's organized in your databases within your organization, you point the chatbot to the knowledge. So one of the big challenges for us is getting the knowledge out of consultants' head and into data format, because then what it does is the chatbot, you just tell the chatbot simply to where to go and query the data. So a client where you ask any consultant, they're getting hundreds of questions, from what do I wear on safari to what's the weather like in the Sabi Sands at this time of the year to what's the water levels at Victoria Falls. This is all information that a chatbot can answer and give your consultant more capacity, but it can deliver it in a bespoke, high-end way that the person interacting with the chatbot doesn't necessarily have to know it's a computer.
So could you put your voice on there and every single customer will think that they're speaking to David Ryan?
Well, you could, but you don't want to deceive people. So I think transparency and authenticity are important. So I think what's important is you're authentic about your interaction. You engage with your client in terms of how your client journey and communication. So you could almost introduce the chatbot and go, if you have any questions, because we still do with North America have a 8, 9, 10 hour time difference. If you've got any questions, let the chatbot try and answer them for you. It gives a more instantaneous response, but still giving them the surety that you have an expert human that is relationship-based at their assistance. Yeah, it's about, and the beauty is, I mean, you can try some of these chatbots. We're doing it internally. We can put in requirements and you can ask it to build an itinerary now. So the whole idea is, how do you use AI? How do you use data? I mean, let's be honest. If you think of a business like Rhino Africa, we've been around 20 years. We've always been in the direct market. We know that people, between destinations, between languages. I'm going to give you an example. The US market, it has an average of 186 day lead time. We can use IP addresses. We know where our clients come from. I can pretty much tell you when a client is going to drop an inquiry, what they're going to book, when they're going to travel, simply by applying an algorithm on the data that's come before. So because what we're doing, let's be honest, is we're a relationship-based business. It's not rocket science, right? So the first-time traveler to Africa likes the sort of Cape Town, Kruger, Vic Falls coming from a specific market. That second-time travelers like to go to Botswana. So what you can now do is you can aid your travel consultants with access to information and AI that can help them build itineraries, which we know have been highly successful for clients in the past.
Wow. David, you focus on the fact that our industry is so heavily relationship-centric. So can you elaborate on how AI can assist in scaling tailor-made experiences while maintaining the human touch? And that human touch is so essential in a relationship-based industry like travel. How do you make that work?
Well, I think this is the challenge we're all trying to overcome. So I think the first point we should recognize is that we're not taxi drivers in San Francisco, okay? Our industry should not fear the loss of jobs like we did at the advent of the sort of internet 20 odd years ago, okay? But rather, if we embrace AI as an opportunity for job creation and all the benefits that come with it. So as I said earlier, the biggest benefit of AI to date is that it's starting to help build efficiency and capacity. Now, AI complements the human touch by automating or starting to automate all those routine tasks that travel consultants would normally be responsible. So as I just said to you, like itinerary building, you can now, instead of having to build the itinerary or a bespoke itinerary for each client from scratch, you can now start to use an AI tool which speeds up, and it's using past data. So we understand that this is a client, it's a family group. We can understand their ages, we know where they come from, we know what they're looking for, and you can put all those criteria in, and AI can help you now to start building that itinerary. It can also start to do booking confirmations. So as we develop APIs into all these booking systems, AI can start to manage the booking confirmations. It manages the post-trip follow-ups as an example. And all this is done in order to free up the travel experts so that they can focus on the meaningful relationship with clients. So it's really about harnessing AI to handle repetitive processes, giving travel consultants who have that high touch much more time to engage with their guests and better understand their needs. And therefore, we can create more personalized experiences. I think the most important part is we can then resonate on that emotional level. Remember, as I said earlier, clients remember you for how you made them feel, not what you said, did, or charged them for their safari. But equally, AI can't exist in a vacuum. You know, it requires technology, and it requires quality data. And as I said, that's one thing our industry should have in abundance. And if you're going to embrace AI as a tool to assist with the scaling or growing of your business or our industry, it obviously comes with an investment in technology, into quality data, and into business intelligence. So in the same way that our challenges of the past are not the challenges of the future, in a world of data-driven AI, I believe one of the biggest challenges that we'll need to do is to start teaching our leaders how to interpret data and insights if we want to achieve real growth in our industry.
As the founder, the guy who went off on his own and challenged the world, recognized an opportunity which none of us saw were there. How do you envision AI shaping the future of inbound tailor-made travel to Africa? And I'm stressing tailor-made to Africa and beyond.
That's a good question, Colin. Someone once said that success is not about what you accomplish in your life. It's about what you inspire others to do. And while I'm definitely getting a little old for this, I think Rhino's true success has been able to take people on a journey where their values resonate strongly to a very tangible purpose of doing good. And in so doing, I think I've been very fortunate enough to surround myself with people that are a lot smarter than me, but they all make me look good. I'll never forget, my father always used to tell me, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So just like I did back in 2004, when the internet allowed us the opportunity to start disrupting the traditional travel models, I believe without a doubt that AI represents the next frontier. And yeah, I think if we embrace AI into the space of how we do things and we start to use AI as that tool to drive capacity for our businesses, for our industry, we use it for knowledge base, we use it for job creation, the consequence will be massive increases in arrivals to South Africa and to Africa. But it really starts with embracing it as a tool, embracing it as a new frontier. And, you know, like anything, you've got to spend a lot of time learning about it. You've got to invest in it. You know, I think the one great thing about AI, and I don't know if anybody's done the 28-day AI challenge out there, but it's a really fun learning process. I watched it at Rhino, and there was this real hesitation, as there is always, to change in an organization. But what we did is we use simple things like ChatGTP. What we started to do was get people to just start interacting with it and playing with it. And then when they realize just how easy it is to interact with and just how much benefit it can bring and how much capacity it can bring you and how much easier it can make your life, everything from inquiry generation to filtration to managing client journey. The most amazing thing about it, it is a huge amount of fun. And you get these small scale wins in the business on a daily basis that excite everyone, and then they actually start to change culture. And I think if we could do that from a business perspective to an industry perspective, I promise you the consequence will be increased arrival numbers.
But David, one of the things on the series that we've interviewed some of these folks in far off places which are desperate for tourism revenue. We've interviewed these people at the coalface. We've had Dr. Colleen Begg up in northern Mozambique. She runs the most extraordinary NGO. And she also runs a little tented camp out there. We've interviewed Rod Cassidy and CAR. We've got all these projects around Africa which are desperate for tourism revenue. But part of the problem in the tourism industry, the tour operators get into a routine, and this is it. It's really inquiry comes in. This is my standard one, as you said, Cape Town up through to Kruger, etc., etc. The problem which I have is that the travel industry, and particularly the channel, is getting so entrenched in doing the same old, that we're starting to get over tourism developing. And we are not sharing the benefits of tourism into these faraway places which are desperate for tourism. My worry in where we are going is that it might further entrench this whole AI assisted thing, might further entrench the same old. How do we get SI to help to operators to spread the load, to make it easier for them to sell different destinations? How to start getting business into Rod Cassidy in Central African Republic, the most biodiverse place in the whole of Africa. I mean, it's just an extraordinary project. If I keep saying, if I've got 24 hours to live, where do I want to be? It's there. But he struggles to get tourism. Poor old Colleen Begg at the coalface with communities and lions and all these different projects, even just to go slightly out the normal. How can AI help to diverse the spread of tourism so that conservation does have cash?
It's a very good question, Colin. And I think the personalization, or I think one of the things you're going to see with AI is the cost of content generation and the ability to distribute content is going to be much more efficient in the future. It's an interesting thing that you say, because I've watched it even from our own business, and you have to have a consciousness internally around your purpose, okay? And I always go, I've watched this industry for 20 odd years, okay? And it's like, you have a crisis and everything empties out to the Sabi Sands, and then it fills up in the Sabi Sands first, and it's like, and then the reach goes outwards. One of the benefits of doing really well at what we do is we do have capacity issues in the safari industry. So I think what a lot of tour operators are being faced with is when tourism's going well, they have to start looking out of the box at other destinations. And they have to start investing in content in those other destinations. I'm exactly the same. If you ask me where I want to be in Gorongosa. Last year, we started, even in Rhino, exactly that, is how do we use the funnel, how do we use the 15,000 guests to start impacting fringe destinations and making them viable? Because yes, we might be supporting lots of jobs in the Sabi Sands or in Cape Town, but if you don't have a reach in this industry, it's not going to help our wildlife causes whatsoever. And we've done projects with wilderness in Zambia. But I think, and I look at it and I look at the couple of hundred guests a year that are going to Odzala in Congo. So last year I traveled to Odzala, I traveled to Gorongosa with the specific purpose of, well, how do we use this funnel and industry to make an impact in these destinations? Because if the Congo Basin doesn't survive, if Gorongosa doesn't survive, protecting a couple of 100,000 hectares in Southern Africa isn't going to help us as an industry either. But I think AI can make a significant difference. I think we need to change the way we market. I think we need to change our approach. I know, for many people, this idea of influencers is a terrible thing. But I can tell you, I've booked 3 trips around the world to places I did not even know existed off the basis of content that I've started to see on platforms like Instagram. I looked at Raja Ampat, which I'd never heard of in my life before, and I started getting content coming up, and I was like, I've got to go there. And I think that's what we need to start doing. And I think that's, for a lot of tour operators, we're quite specialized in generating the inquiry and then facilitating the booking. Most of our industry hasn't got into content generation, and I think we need to help these sort of fringe destinations in building content to build that search interest, because nothing happens without the inspiration and the search interest.
So, David, I'm going to put down a challenge to you. And you have got to go to Sakuma National Park in Chad in the next 2 years. And you're going to have the finest wildlife experience you've ever had in your life. And you'll know that every cent you paid is going to go to African Parks' efforts to make this the most extraordinary destination. You cannot believe what's there. So
No,
yes,
I've got Chad and I've got South Sudan on my list for this year.
Bang. And that comes from African Parks, one of the interviews we did. And I think this is it. If we look at the challenges of the planet, climate change has to be one of the biggest things. And you've all seen this map of Africa where you've got the outline of Africa, you put the whole of America, the whole of China, the whole of India, the whole of Europe, and much, much more. And we've still got space. And what essentially is happening is that Africa is taking the first world's pollution, and we are processing that, taking the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, giving back oxygen to the planet. And most of that's happening in not so much even the Congo Basin, but in our savannas. We have to keep our savannas right. And my challenge to each and every one of you is to have a look at the series. It's going to be on YouTube. Go and listen to these folks on the front line, because it's these small people who are making an extraordinary effort to make big changes. And every single person in the Travel Channel can make their difference, because you are controlling the flow of money. And a simple little thing like $500. We worked out the other day in one of the other talks, $500 buys between 3,000 and 4,000 meals for a young kid with all the nutrients they need to have their brains expanded and all that. $500 can create 4,000 meals. And most of the companies got a foundation. Folks, we need every element of the Travel Channel to contribute.
I think one of your problems there, just quickly, Colin, is that knowledge is expensive. So if you think of what's been invested in destination and product knowledge, and I think that's where AI comes in. AI can help us disseminate knowledge, that we don't have this mindset that we have to have physically been in the destination to send a client there. I think we need to build trust across our industry that we have a consciousness that, because we've all got, I've got guests that have traveled with us 17, 18 times. I tell them they need to go and try out South Sudan. They want to go and try out South Sudan. And we've all got that. And it's how we leverage those repeats to South Africa or those repeats to Africa to start making a difference to those fringe areas, as you say.
It's Ali from our Africa Travel jumping in here. If I may, we've had a few questions. David and Colin, thank you very much. The first question is from Anonymous. Yes, we all understand that the entire experience is personal. Is it cold and engaging if you're dealing with a robot? The data analysis part is fine, but we still need to talk to a person / human. Any comments?
Absolutely, but you don't. Your chatbots don't have to be client-facing. Imagine the impact that a chatbot can have on internally in your processes of collating information for your not only for your travel consultants, for the concierges and everybody else. So we mustn't look at things in finite existence. A chatbot for your organization might not work as a client facing, but it might bring huge benefits if it was internal facing. So all our chatbots that we don't have an external facing chatbot at this point in time. We're quite close to releasing one, but we've made sure that we use it internally first, so that we can test it. And again, like I said, you've got to be very conscious about how you deploy those things. We are, as a relationship-based business, I'm 100% in a relationship-based industry. You're never going to replace the warmth of a relationship with a chatbot. You might be able to do that in dynamic packaging in the sort of 3-star market where you're throwing packages together and it becomes more transactional, but definitely not in the high end where it is heavily relationship based.
Thank you, David. I think that was very well summarized. The next question, another anonymous attendee. What are some of these AI tools that you are referring here? This is coming from a setup from Google Sheets, slides, etc. as a system. I may add that we've got Natalia Rosa tomorrow with the whole webinar on exactly which tools to use. but perhaps you can share with us some of the tools you are currently using.
So a lot of the tools that we are using we are developing ourselves. So from inquiry distribution, we would use an off-the-shelf tool. We would use Einstein. Our business operates off Capture and Salesforce. Salesforce has a lot of built-in AI tools now, like Einstein. In the marketing space, the guys are using various tools for content generation and personalization of, say, reels and marketing strategies. I'm sure Natalia will, there's a lot of off-the-shelf AI tools that you can use. There is, if you go and scroll it on Instagram, there's actually a 21-day AI challenge that you can do that actually takes you through the bulk of AI tools. So tools from how to build a bot, you can use if you don't have internal systems that do it, from tools to how to generate reels. There are, and it's like the app world. There are more and more AI tools coming onto the market, just like apps did in the early 2000s, every single day. I think what you have to do is define your challenge. So what is it you want to overcome? Where do you think, it could be as simple as ChatGPT and helping you write emails or edit emails. We have rules of engagement at Rhino that you cannot leave everything to AI. It has to be checked by a human. So even if you are using ChatGPT as an example to help you curate a response or an email, you never send out any content or any communication that has been purely written by AI. I think that concept that it is a tool to improve efficiency, improve capacity and help, it is not a solution on its own.
Brilliant, David. And from my personal experience as well, I realized that strategy comes first before and then communication to be able to use these AI tools. If you have no strategy and the outputs are 70% AI and then human factor to make it successful. So hopefully Anonymous has answered that. And then lastly, Lauren, what advice can you give to safari lodgers on harnessing AI to market their properties?
So I think from a property perspective, content generation in AI is becoming much easier and more cost effective to do. Distribution with AI across multiple platforms is becoming easier and easier to do as well. I think we've gone, what's really fascinating for me is if you look at that world of lead generation, when I started out at Rhino Africa, like Google AdWords wasn't even a thing. And we went through this thing where in the early days, inquiries were easy to get and, the whole industry thought they were free. You just had to have a good website and a URL. And over time, inquiry generation became more difficult and more cost effective as Google's strategy was to make money off advertising. And so cost per clicks and inquiry costs all sort of escalated. I think what's interesting now is that reach goes way beyond a website and a Google platform and how you rank. So there are so many different platforms for content distribution and how we distribute content, how we create search interest, how we create inspiration, that's where our lodges, our destinations should be focusing.
Thank you so much, David. That really does help a lot. And your insights and your way forward in how you're managing and marketing your company is extraordinary. And just to say that AI, my learning is don't be scared. It's not replacing jobs. It's finding more time for your staff to be more productive and have better outputs. David, thank you so much. Colin, thank you again for all your time. And thank you everyone for being on this platform.